One of the parts of Siege of Winterfell which has the least attention paid to it, in my experience, is the setting up of Legion Dragon skills in regards to min-maxing their strategic skills according to each lineup you're setting them up with. So if you didn't already know, every dragon skill has a specific strategic skill attached to it. Of course, all the normal troop skills are pretty much as you'd expect, with just buffing that troop type and whatnot. But with the Legion skills specifically, they all have more unique skills, and quite a lot of them actually play into types of synergy that can be used with certain Siege of Winterfell lineups. Now, historically, most people haven't cared about min-maxing this stuff because they don't care enough about Siege of Winterfell, or they just don't have the Legion skills or the premium commanders to enable the synergies that they operate within. But now with things like the Elim chasing for castle fragments, min-maxing is a bit more important now. But I will admit this video will probably be exceedingly niche because min-maxing this stuff is something that even I haven't done historically, but I may well do going into this season. Because there is, of course, the strategic skill specific dragon presets, so you can sort of set it up and leave it there according to how it is best set up. So I've drawn up a bit of a chart to go over this, and I'll just go over a few general talking points around this. So there are effectively 3 synergies that are enabled within Siege of Winterfell through Layla, Jaime, and Synara's passive skills primarily, although you also see it in the likes of Baelish's passive skill also. The passive skills are primarily where this stuff comes from, so Daeron has a skill that synergizes with block, and block will come directly from Synara. There are currently no dragon skills which actually have any block synergy. So the only things that are relevant are active skills and normal attacks. So active skills we'll get from Layla, because her passive ability gives the chance of reprocking active skills. So this means both, 1, you will have more actives cast with a Layla lineup, and 2, you'll deal more active damage purely through the fact that you'll want to be pairing your best active abilities with Layla, and also the more they cast, the more effectiveness you'll get out of them, obviously. Jaime has a passive 30% chance to effectively double the damage you deal with normal attacks. Baelish will also play into this, where at gold he will give a 40% chance to repeat normal attacks caused in his lineup, but for most players it will just be Jaime where this is of any relevance. So there are synergies at play here, because if Jaime is doubling the damage of normal attacks 30% of the time, if you scale in attack stats with something like Patello, that increases his normal attack damage and his attack simultaneously, you'll then exaggerate those buffs further because you're doubling the damage that those stats are providing to. So I don't have all these skills unlocked on my own account, which makes it slightly hard to show off. As a general note, the best strategic skills in Siege of Winterfell will be Reinforcement and Rally Size. This is because they give 50,000 army size at level 9, which is far and beyond any other strategic skill that is on offer here. 50k troops is huge when it's all passive army size, and army size increases and whatnot don't take effect whatsoever. So you will, every time, in my opinion, want to put Reinforcement and Legion building on the march with your Lord stats and your best commander setup realistically. I have seen some people in the past deliberately put these with like weaker lineups so their troops are a bit more balanced if they're a bit of a whale, and they have troop marches that will exceed 1 million if they put these on their Lord march. I don't agree with that personally. I just totally all in the effectiveness of that best march and try and do as much damage of that as you can. Below that point, for the no synergy skills, All of these are pretty bad in my opinion. Legion healing, interestingly, I believe is the best of these 5, and that's quite an interesting note because picking between these 5, as I've touched on in the past with my what dragon skills to buy and what to prioritize video, uh, it's a bit of a tricky decision prioritizing between these. I believe I said in that video I edged Legion healing as the best pick because it helps in stuff like AC, whereas things like survival and damage don't. And this is potentially, if you care about Siege of Winterfell or All Out War, or if you care about the elims for castle fragments, this is maybe a bit more of an incentive to prioritize Legion healing over these two, because all survival and damage do is increase or decrease the troops you have that permanently die and you can't heal. But in Siege of Winterfell, for most people at least, you'll be able to keep sending out full marches either way. You won't really feel the effectiveness of permanently killing troops beyond the hospital on other players, whereas Legion healing will have an actual healing coefficient attached to it, which will help you sustain in actual fights. And all of these are listed loosely, at least, in terms of best down to worst from top down. And this is probably most prominent in the weakness and bleed placements. And again, this is quite a unique point, which most people probably haven't realized, is that weakness and bleed as the typically least preferable synergy dragon skills are actually better in Siege of Winterfell and All Out War as the RTS game modes than Tear and Flame as their follow-up equivalents for their synergies. Of course, in real PvP, Tear and Flame are significantly better than these two, but with their strategic skills, Weakness and Bleed will effectively have a 300% damage coefficient tied to them, directly attached to normal attacks. So Bleed will apply a bleed, and Weakness will do a 300 damage coefficient crit, and both of these will, if the mechanics are the same as crit mechanics and bleed mechanics in the actual bleed synergy and real PvP, will actually scale up off Jaime crits, off buffed attack stats, off buffed normal attack stats. And those things are very accessible to most players, so something like Patello and Jaime together, if you get Patello scaling in his 90% increased normal attack damage, plus the 1,800% spear attack, and then you crit with that, and then that crit that has been buffed by those 3 factors simultaneously then gets converted into a 300% damage coefficient additional attack with that buffed up number, you will actually do a huge amount more damage, and Jaime will realistically benefit most from these synergy skills as a result. So if you can get Weakness and Bleed and put them in a lineup with Jaime, that will be hugely advantageous to you, and you will really spike up your damage as a result, actually. Reroute, Tear, and Flame are still good, but you can't really control what they give you as much. So if we look at something like Tear, it's just directly after every 5 normal attacks dealt, it has a 20% chance to do, this would be 300% damage coefficient at 9. So it will passively provide you more damage effectively, but the only way to increase the amount of normal attacks you deal is with Gold Baelish, realistically. He's potentially runnable at Purple as well. So if you're a Mega Whale and you're running a like Baelish, Dana, Jaime lineup, you'll want all 5 of these skills on it. For most middling players, just make sure you have Weakness and Bleed if you have them on your lineup with Jaime in it. Reroute was also the same in terms of it only procs off every 5 normal attacks also. So you can't really control any synergy in regards to this because you just don't have any easy means of increasing the number of normal attacks you deal. For the active skill synergies, you'll just want to make sure follow-up assist and strong assault are with Layla if you're running her, or if not, whatever has your Lord stats realistically, because you'll scale those Lord stats into the damage coefficients attached to something like follow-up. So it's a 20% chance to do a dragon attack off active skills. So if you have Layla there, there's just more chances to hit that 20% chance. Strong Assault will just increase the damage dealt by active abilities. So you'll really want high throughput abilities alongside this. It says damage dealt, but I assume this will also affect healing. It would be very weird if it didn't. So you'll want Daenerys, Marjorie, Sansa, something like that alongside Strong Assault. And Assist will just be a heal effect equivalent to follow up effectively, with the same chance, the same healing coefficient. So once again, put it with Layla ideally. If not, just stick it with your Lord March, because the more stats you have there, the further this healing coefficient will actually scale. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it's quite a common sense process, but I do think it's something which a lot of people haven't looked into or really paid much thought towards. But if you do pay a bit of attention to it, you do take the effort to tweak your strategic skills according to what you're running, you could potentially squeeze out a bit more eliminations for yourself and therefore help your alliance a bit more in Siege of Winterfell if you make sure you're getting the most out of your Legion Dragon skills and their synergies.